Nigel, you mentioned him. I mean, he was a great favourite of the British crowd. I was a little bit disappointed in a film that I did happen to see that was in recent years about Williams' history, that it was a little bit denigrating of Nigel. And I think that was very unfair, because Nigel won over 30 Grand Prix, of which only 2 were with Ferrari. So he must have won near 30 with Williams. He was by far the most outstanding driver. And yes, he was a fairly unusual personality, but we employed him to drive racing cars quickly, and that's what he did. If he was on the track testing or racing, he was electric, and the crowd knew that. He gave everything. He was a fantastic driver.
Patrick, let's talk more about Nigel then. Why did you sign him for 85? Because at that time, he'd yet to win a race, and Peter Warr, the boss of Lotus, hadn't been, how do we put this politely, overly complimentary about him. So what did you see in him back in those earlier days? Well,
sadly, Peter Warr is dead now. So I will actually quote him in that at Monaco, when Nigel was in the lead and put his tyre in the wet over a white line going up the hill and literally threw the race away, Peter Warr was well quoted as saying, "Nigel Mansell will not win a race as long as I have a hole in my arse." And he was actually wrong. What did I see? I have to say, and I'm not trying to take credit where credit is not due, but we were looking to employ a driver alongside Keke, and I think we had Jacques Lafitte at the time in the car, and Jacques was a fantastic guy, a great member of the team. In fact, a very skillful driver, incredible finesse, but he didn't have quite the heart that the likes of Nigel and, say, Alan Jones had in terms of laying it all on the line in the race. So we decided we wanted to take on another driver. I was very keen to have a driver who had driven with a Renault engine behind him, because we had the Honda engine and it was very immature as an engine. It was either all or nothing. You put your foot on the throttle, you waited for however long it happened to be, and then suddenly you got 800 horsepower or something.
So, yeah, we're talking about the turbo in particular.
The turbo, yes. Well, this was turbo time. We started running the Honda turbo at the last race in 1983. So through 1984, we ran with Keke and Jacques, and with a very immature Honda turbo engine, which was very unreliable.
What was Nigel saying about that Honda when he compared it to the Renault? Did he say you were miles behind, or that the gap was actually quite close?
When he first started driving, I think he did a test right at the end of 1984, and he was not very complimentary. And Nigel being Nigel, he said it exactly as he saw it, which really was exactly what Honda needed. Having just climbed out from driving with a Renault engine behind him, and probably the Renault engine at that time, 1984, was probably the class of the field. And to Honda's credit, they very much listened to him. I can't say, Nigel didn't say you need a different compression ratio and you need this and that. All he could say is, this is what's wrong with the engine. The throttle control is terrible. He would describe in great detail what his problem was with the throttle control. And they sat down and listened and asked him questions, and they went away and got the job done.